All right, on this week of Self-Starters, we have Joe Rotondo. Joe is a brand strategist, a brand enthusiast, and more importantly, he loves to work and build brands that are community-based. He is a runner, he's a motivator, and most importantly, he's always locked in. Fair to say?
That's it, baby. Stay locked in.
Joe,
it's the mentality.
Thanks for coming on the show today.
Steve, thank you for having me.
What are your thoughts on the setup we got right now?
You have brought me to my favorite pier in all of New York. One of my favorite places. Because when I come here and I look, like, it makes me reflect on my time in New York and like what I've accomplished, what I've done, what I failed to do. But most importantly, like, it brings up nostalgia, but also this look to the future of like
all
what can
of
be
that
done.
Just here in Pier 3?
Yeah, right here, Pier 3.
I love that. You know that's purely coincidence.
Sometimes it's fate.
That probably more so is fate. And obviously the reason I brought you here was because when I wasn't scouting for somewhere for us to shoot, but I was on a run last week, and I too was running the piers, and I was like, this is a fucking awesome spot for me and Joe to set up for the interview.
It just goes to show, I think, Steve, like, your thoughtfulness, but also sort of how well you know me already. And we've been friends for what, 2 months?
Yeah.
Right? And like our interactions have been in the gym, you know, and a couple outside of that, but it's mostly been in the gym and it's passing conversation. But like in that passing conversation, we take the time to like talk. It's not a passing like, hey, how are you? It's like, hey, like, what's going on?
Well, there's a lot of people I know. I obviously we're both in the gym every day, and there's a lot of people we know in the gym. But me and you also have connections outside of the gym. We also have circles that intertwine, and we also see value in each other.
Totally, and that's how I met you.
Yeah.
From the outer circle ring, a mutual friend that brought us together, Chris. I met Chris through Devin's inner circle, and we were getting to know each other. I told him the gym I go to. He's like, oh, so funny, like, one of my boys goes there as well. His name is Steve. He has a man bun. And I'm like, all right. Literally the next day, I'm like, I'm going to find the dude with the man bun, and I'm going to go say what up. And, like, we're doing bicep curls next to each other, and I literally dropped my weights, and I went up to you. I'm like, hey, are you Steve? I'm like, obviously, because you have an S necklace and you have a man bun. You're like, yeah. And I'm like, and I just introduced myself, and that was it. I think, like, before this, we were just talking about introductions.
Yeah.
So many people are afraid to introduce themselves, but, like...
Why do you think that is?
I think people are afraid of being rejected, which is totally fair.
Even not in, like, a relationship setting, just, like, introducing themselves to somebody at all.
Who you vibe with, who you could potentially vibe with. Like, we're attracted to ourselves, right? And what I mean by that is the world is a mirror, you know? If I see a little bit of myself in somebody, like, you have that attractiveness to them. And, like, there's so many people in the world where you come across like, oh, wow, I think I could be friends with that person. You know nothing about them, but they're too scared to say hello. But I think, like, showing up for yourself and getting out of your comfort zone and just, like, making the introduction and, like, look at, like, the friendship that we've cultivated just through, you know, one, Chris saying, hey, like, my friend goes to the same gym.
My boy works out at Lifetime Dumbbell also.
And then two, like, having sort of the audacity and the balls to say what up to somebody, introduce yourself.
Yeah, and it ends up we're both like-minded, not just in the sense of fitness, but also in life and work and what we both do. We're both branding people. We both love to help people. And I think one of the main goals for both of us is that the team wins. Mm-hmm. We're not me people, we're team people.
Totally.
So to piggyback on that, tell me what you're up to right now. What are you doing?
Yeah, I love building brands. I love it. I love going down the rabbit hole of an idea that comes from, like, what's cool about this right now is, like, I loved my type of date nowadays isn't going to a bar and getting drinks. It's like going to a park, sitting on a bench, grabbing a coffee, shooting the shit for a little bit. So like this is that, and like I love that.
Are we on a date?
Yes.
I love that. This is now going to be. I'm going to refer to this as that going forward.
Yeah, this is the new date. I love building brands, and telling stories, creating something out of nothing is so fascinating to me. You know, when you're just sitting down, getting a little bored, and letting thoughts come and go, no distractions. You know, either you're in nature or you're just sitting at home on your couch and just taking it all in. And, you know, ideas come from whether I'm consuming something or I see somebody doing a particular thing, wearing a particular thing, and then just like taking that, seeing an opportunity in that, and then, you know, coming up with a name, coming up with a product, coming up with a marketing strategy.
So I'm trying to think, because I don't want to talk about anything that you're not allowed to talk about yet. Is there anything, or what are you working on right now that you can talk about?
For sure. There's a couple brands that I've started that I'm working on. There's a golf lifestyle brand called The Greens. It's like, you know, one of those classic Instagram mood board brands that during COVID, I'm a hobby guy. You know, I love novelty. I have ADHD, so I'm always seeking novelty of things. So when I find something I maybe sort of like, I give myself the go-ahead to like fall in love with it.
So with something like that, when do you fall out of love with it? So like with a lot of people, with most people, when you find this love for something because it's a new idea, kind of like a new relationship.
Yep.
You start working on it, but then the fire kind of starts like going out.
Yeah.
How do you keep the fire going? And how much time do you give yourself to get this actually over the finish line?
That's a great question. And that's something I'm learning more about myself, is when I was younger, I was, you know, when you're young, you're naive, you have so much energy, and I still do. So like being able to take things on. So when I was younger, I would jump from thing to thing to thing. But I've gotten better at picking my battles.
Did you take anything for your ADHD?
No. I'm so grateful that, like, when my mom explains me when I was a kid, she just explains me as, like, I was just a busy kid. I was just busy, you know?
And where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Warwick, New York, just out like an hour north of the city.
Okay.
She explains me as a busy kid. And what does she mean by that? Like, I was always getting into trouble. I was always bothering my siblings. I like built my own worlds as a kid. Like, I would go out in the yard in that dead heat of summer, wear a full baseball uniform, you know, with the fucking starter jacket, the hat, and I would pretend like I'm playing for the New York Yankees. Or I would wear a construction uniform because I used to see my dad, you know, work around the house, and I used to wear like jeans, the Timberland boots, and a fucking white turtleneck sweater with a denim jacket on top, and like pretend I'm in construction. Or I would like pick up a guitar, pretend I'm a rock star. I was just a busy kid. And she like allowed me to explore that without, you know, putting me on medication. I'm like so grateful for that, because I think it would have killed my creativity.
Yeah.
It would have killed my drive. It would have killed my curiosity, which at the end of the day, like, gives me so much fuel to pursue ideas that I love and brands that I want to potentially build. So to answer your question about what I'm building, a couple of lifestyle brands, but my latest venture right now it's a couple months away from launch.
Here it goes. Drum roll.
It's in like the beginning phases. It's high protein ice cream, and it's called SMEARCASE. And to also answer your question of like, how do you know when to pursue something and how do you know when to like kill your babies? The conclusion that I'm coming to now, like within these past couple months, is, does it align with my values? Does it fit into the lifestyle that I want to create for myself?
Your high protein ice cream aligns with my lifestyle.
Yes.
And that's what's most important.
Yes.
Because when you told me about this the other day, I remember I walked into the gym and I came and I sat down, you're on a computer, and I was like, so what are you working on? And you looked at me, you're like, I wanted to tell you about this when I had some product to put in your hand so I could tell you about it at the same time. All right, I'll tell you about it. So I'm working on a high protein ice cream. Can I say the rest?
That's it for now.
Okay.
That's it for now.
Okay.
I want to keep the rest a secret. Well, it's not really a secret, but there's like a lot that goes into building this that is what I'm learning.
Yeah.
I know very little about the ice cream industry, which is like part of the reason why I love like taking on challenges is because I love going down rabbit holes. I love doing market research.
How many YouTube videos have you now watched on ice cream? 0.
I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a reader. I love reading. Like I would rather read a transcript of something than watch something. That's how I like to learn. That's how I like to use my time.
When I hear you say you go on a rabbit hole with things, I'm all like in my head, I'm assuming that you're on YouTube, just like video after video, consuming.
No, it's not a YouTube rabbit hole. I go on down very, very little YouTube rabbit holes. The only YouTube rabbit hole I'll go down is for Formula One.
Why?
But because I love fucking Formula One.
Okay.
I think it's so sick. But
like watching it?
Yeah, watching it. The rabbit holes I go down is like market research. Like I will read articles about, like right now I have 12 articles about Halo Top that I'm gonna dive into and learn how they did it. Because now, they were the original high protein ice cream.
Got it. Now are a lot of these, because when I think about articles on brands like that, I think that a lot of them are probably paid to play articles because that's what brands do for their PR firms, especially a brand like Halo Top throws money into, all right, go get us into publications. We need press. So they're paying to play. So a lot of them are going to be positive articles. Are you able to find stuff that's kind of positive, kind of negative, kind of in the middle? Yeah, so what's interesting about Halo Top is that the articles is like I'm getting a little bit of both. Let's move up a little closer to the mic just in case because these helicopters are really buzzing. And I'm getting a little bit of both, which is interesting, which is good. Like I want to hear the backlash and the criticism of how, of what went wrong for them, but also why they succeeded, and just take those learnings and how I can apply to it. How could I apply that to what I'm building? So right now, what was the number one takeaway of why Halo Top succeeded, and number one negative thing that people have to say about Halo Top? It's novelty. People love novelty. I love novelty. I seek out novelty. I need something new and exciting and foreign for me to really grab onto it and to learn about it. I love learning. I love I'm a generalist. I know a little about a lot, and I like it like that. I take that sort of way of thinking and I apply it to business, because as an entrepreneur, you need to know every single component of your business. So something I'm educating myself on now is the financial side of business. It's something I never wanted to pay attention to, and I think it's how I've gotten burned in the past. So now it's all right, how can I feed that a little bit more right now so I can well equip myself to win, right? I know that I'm creative, I know I love ideas, and I know I love building brands, right? But how can I complement myself with where I'm at now? I'm not at the point where I can hire for my weaknesses, which I'm excited to do. But I'm trying to be a well-built machine and just be a fucking lethal weapon. So when I go to build and launch something, I'm just well prepared for battle. And I was. You just gave me a great idea. I can't wait to talk to you about it after. Let's go. After the camera's off. We'll talk about it in the sauna. I'm not gonna forget this one, but I'm so I was so excited. This is my first public announcement talking about this idea and brand, and I was so excited to use this opportunity to announce it because it's called the Self Starter Show. Yep. And I'm a self fucking starter. Yep. And I love the platform you've built and the community that you're building, because I think we need more self-starters in the world. I seek that out in people I like to mentor,
if you have that grit, if you have that drive, if you have that hunger to go after whatever it is. Like, self-starter doesn't mean like you're an entrepreneur. In my mind, self-starter doesn't mean you're starting a business, launching a business. Self-starter in my mind is like, there is something out there that you want to go after, and you go after it. Whether it's running a marathon, whether it's getting the dream job you want, you know, whether it's, you know, it's fighting for yourself and being selfish over your goals, because you need that for you.
100%. When people ask me, like, so who do you interview? I don't say I interview self-starters. I say interview doers. I interview people who are doing shit. I interview people who have a passion and they go ahead and they do it instead of thinking about it. Not necessarily, like you said, starting a business, but in your case, that's what it is. But just someone who is doing it.
Totally.
So, how'd this all begin? When did your passion for branding start? And how did you first get your first job doing that? When did you start doing that? Were you at a company? And when did you ultimately leave the company? Give me the origin.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's something I think about a lot. Is like, I've been really trying to reflect on my childhood and pinpoint it to like an
Are you an only child?
No, I'm one of four. I have an older sister. I'm the second oldest. I have a younger sister and then a younger brother. Don't ask me their ages because I won't tell you. Mostly because I don't know. But I've been trying to really pinpoint a time in my childhood where, like, it was the aha moment. And I've been struggling to find it. But like I said before, you know, as a kid, I was so busy. I was living in my own world, you know, creating like different identities for myself. I'm a true Gemini with ADHD. I have multiple personas. I've lived like so many lives already. And I've explored like every facet of myself imaginable in my 20s. And like, I took risk on things. Like, if I had an idea, I went after it. I didn't want that idea just to live in my head. I wanted to get it out on paper, and I wanted to like bring it to fruition. And I just wanted to see something through until like the very, very end, until it like didn't make sense anymore. Just like going through that process of like starting, building, launching is like so invigorating to me. So, you know, in terms of childhood,
Let's fast forward from that.
yeah.
Because we know you were a curious kid.
Yep.
Where'd you go to college?
I went to college at University of Rhode Island
Hey,
because
go Rams.
yeah, Rhody.
You went to Rhode Island. I did not know that.
Yes, Narragansett. I lived in Narragansett. I wanted to go to Rhode Island.
Did you surf while you were there?
I did not. I swam.
Okay.
But I wanted to go to Rhode Island because I wanted to be near the beach.
That's why I asked if you surfed.
Yeah. And I like, just as a, like growing up, we always went to the beach every year. I love just being on the beach, looking at the water, being in the sands. I love swimming, you know, and University of Rhode Island offered that. So
it offered that close by, where you
Yes.
looked to go to school in California
Yup.
or Florida.
It was a 3-hour drive from where I grew up, so
Yep.
it was accessible but far enough where there was some distance. And, you know, try telling an 18-year, this is like so mind-blowing to me, the concept of college. Like, tell your 18-year-old self to choose a career that you need to pursue and study for the next 4 years. And it was at a time where everyone was like, oh, follow your dreams, follow your passion. All I knew was sports. I was super active. I loved all sports.
So in your mind, what was your passion at the time?
So when I was graduating high school, it was like, I loved camaraderie. I loved being on a team. And I loved being active. So I was like, okay, let me go study exercise science. So I go, I'm in exercise, I joined the swim team. I'm studying exercise science. And this is where the novelty comes in. You know, at the end of freshman year, like I was always I always like really cared about my appearance. I love, like, my mom used to take me back to school shopping every year to get a new wardrobe, which I'm so grateful for, because like I was so particular in the stores I wanted to shop at, and I was very particular.
Were your siblings like that also?
Not so much.
Well, what was your relationship with your siblings growing up?
We fought a lot, which which I regret, but like, we also, like, again, going back to SMEARCASE, we also bonded in the kitchen and over food. I grew up in an Italian household, so my dad was always like cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. He was a stay-at-home dad, but he was also always teaching us like how to cook and how to prepare a meal and how to deliver the best like food experience. And through that Italian, you know, the Italian way I was raised, we bonded over food. And it was our lab. The kitchen was our lab to experiment and
so
just like
it's
to get to know each
kind
other.
of serendipitous that you now have your current high passion is for growing a food brand, because not just a food brand, but a sweet food brand. From your sweet food brand that kind of was the glue that brought your family together as a child, is now, we'll call it the glue that's bringing everything going on in your life together right now.
Yes. And that's, again, like, go back to values-based, is like, I love my family, I love being creative, and I love like being driven and ambitious. So it's like, how can I take all those values of mine and like put it into something I want to pursue? You know, as I reflect, it just makes so much sense, right? So that's how you know like when to pursue something. If like when you have the conviction in what it means, is your why. Like, why are you doing this, right? It's like, growing up, I was more savory than sweet. I didn't really, fuck with dessert that much, but I did love fucking ice cream. I loved ice cream. I loved I love a vanilla soft serve in a waffle cone with rainbow sprinkles.
Amen.
That is my go-to.
You and me both.
That's all I need in terms of dessert. But
all right, so you go to Rhode Island.
Yes, I go to Rhode Island.
What's you're studying?
I'm studying exercise science, kinesiology, okay. And then like freshman year ends. I enjoy the summer. I lifeguarded at a local lake, and then I come back for sophomore year. Me and my buddies were living in a beach house, and like I'm getting more comfortable with myself, right? With the freedom that college.
Yourself?
Yeah, like with the more comfortable, like more confident in like who I was, what I wanted to do with my life. Just like having that freedom that college sort of provided just helps you open up as a person. So again, the more I was thinking about like who I was like, shit, man, like I love fashion, and I was like, wow, like I think it'd be sort of cool to design sports jerseys, because I loved like playing Madden. I loved choosing my jerseys, making my own jersey, playing video games.
So is this when business number one got birthed?
Yes.
Let's hear about it.
So literally I woke up and I changed my major. I didn't tell my parents.
Good.
I just straight up changed my major. I went to my advisor at the time. I said, hey, like, what classes do I need to take if I want to design sports uniforms? And they're like, well, you're in the wrong major. So literally the next day I changed my major to apparel design.
That was a major?
Yes. I was fortunate enough that URI had an apparel design program at a public school. So it wasn't an art school, which I was very happy that I went to a public school versus a private art school, because that's like the type of person I am. I am artistic and creative, but I also value like having the freedom of like not a super rigorous program. So that's when I started getting more into the fashion side of things.
The fashion side of things, but more so, not just that, more into the branding side of things, and the actual being somewhere where you're gonna having your hands on something, where you're actually gonna be building something.
Yes.
Versus your other major where you were just gonna be around.
Right.
If that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yes. Like, what skills did I need to equip myself with in order to build what I wanted to build. And to me, that was like, I have to learn how to create clothes if I want to pursue, at the time it was like sports uniforms, but then that quickly developed into like a clothing brand. And so by the end of...
What was the name of the clothing brand?
By the end of junior year...
Wait.
By the end of junior year, I was diving into like vintage Ralph Lauren polo, like fucking super Americana. That's like the pinnacle of fashion to me. And I studied abroad in Italy, in Florence, Italy, where I learned how to tailor suits. And there was a project of pretty much like do a case study on a brand or make a fictitious brand and like come up with a marketing plan around it. And that was like the first time I had a project like that, and I went fucking all in.
That sounds awesome.
I was obsessed.
I'd love to do that now.
Yes, it was such a great opportunity. So in Italy, I spent a lot of time by myself, which I was very grateful for. I would take super long walks and just like allow myself to think. Like I wanted to find who I was, like where my roots came from. To me, it was a journey of self-reflection to find myself in Italy. So as I'm on this walk and I'm thinking about this project, I was like, well shit, like what if I just made my own clothing brand? And then I was like, okay, like if that's what I want to do, like I obviously need to come up with a name. And a name that's super close to me and my family is Rocco. My grandfather's name is Rocco. My uncle's call name, he was in the Navy. He was a Navy pilot. His call name was Rocco. I was like, okay, my middle name's Rocco. Like, how about Rocky? I was like, okay, interesting. Like, Rocky. I don't think that's enough. And then, like, man, I was so homesick in Italy. And, like, I missed my parents. I missed my family. But the thing I missed most was my dog.
I'm assuming your dog's name is Clark.
And my dog's name is Clark. And I was like, holy shit, Rocky Clark. I was like, I'm actually getting chills right now. Because like that name was so personal to me and it made so much sense and it was so strong sounding. I was like, damn, Rocky Clark, like I fuck with that. Like that's a fucking sweet name. And it was like sort of fictitious, right?
But it made so much sense.
It just made so much sense personally, and like that's the type of person I am. Like I need to be so emotionally attached to the why of things in order for me to pursue it. So Rocky Clark, here I have Rocky Clark. I'm like, wow, that's fucking cool. Like that's sweet. I'm learning how to tailor suits. You know, I'm coming up with this marketing strategy of Rocky Clark, and I came up with this story about like a man and his dog hiking through Montana into the woods, into the wilderness with mountains, right? And like in my mind it was like Americana, like I was super deep into vintage Ralph Lauren polo ads and just like this whole sort of story of like Western America. I was obsessed with the aesthetic. I was obsessed with the storytelling that Ralph sort of portrayed. I was like, interesting, like that's really cool. And so I go back to the States. I'm back. I'm a fucking new person. Like I grow out my hair.
So you're new. So while you were in Italy, you came up with Rocky Clark. From Italy back to the States, what had you done to start building the brand?
Literally fucking everything.
Go on.
Again, I love rabbit holes. And I was at a point in my life where I was alone. I created a lot of space for myself. I created a lot of distance from other people because I wanted to find like who I was, what drove me, you know. I wanted to find my inner motive. So I wanted to find myself. So throughout that, like I had so much time and space to fucking go down rabbit holes and think about stories and think about the aesthetic and think about, you know, what this is. So I had done like really the brand storytelling. I was putting together mood boards of what the vibe was. So I did a lot of work. I hit up, you know, my best friend Rob.
And what year was all this going on?
This was like 2015.
Okay.
I hit up my best friend Rob, who is a graphic designer. Told him, and he's like pretty much my go-to person when I have a new idea.
So, but when did you make the first pieces?
Right. So he designed this logo of a dog head. It's on the hat. I'm wearing the hat now.
Yep.
And to me, like, once he designed that, I was like, holy shit, like, this is becoming even more real. I feel like the dog head was such a powerful logo. It was timeless. It was classic. It was relatable. It was bold and strong. So once we had that logo, we started making like some like graphic tees, and like I don't even want to think about what they look like because they're so embarrassing and they're so early. Like as an artist, you have to like create so much garbage to find the gold. But I was like so willing to go through that process. I was like so naive and so enthusiastic. Like I didn't care if what I put out wasn't my best work because I knew my best work was ahead. I knew I had to.
Dude, you gotta just do. A lot of people, being in the industry that I'm in, and just like advising as many people on a lot of it on social media.
Yep.
I see a lot of people, they just don't put anything out.
Yep.
Because they don't think it's good enough, and they wait
Right.
and they wait and they wait, and they're like, is this content good enough? And they work 3 weeks on something to eventually maybe put it out.
Yeah.
And then they wait another 3 weeks to maybe put it out. When you just gotta keep doing. You just gotta start doing. And if anything, especially with a clothing brand, and you saw it firsthand, putting out those first iterations is the best.
Yes.
Because it's you put it out, and now it's physical, and now you can see what you like and you don't like, and then you can change it.
Right.
And you just build from there.
Right. If you're waiting for something to be perfect, it'll never happen.
Forever.
You'll be waiting forever. If you're waiting like to figure it out, you're gonna be waiting forever. I've submitted to the fact that I will be figuring it out for the rest of my life, and the day I have it figured out is the day I'm fucking dead, and I'm very okay with that. I'm very okay with that, and I submit to the process, and I'm submitting to the journey of my like unique journey. So I was just so excited to like get things out. I was so excited to learn how to do it.
But tell us more about the production, because I want to deep dive about it. I don't want to like I don't want to pussyfoot around what you were building. You built this. You started making tees.
Yup.
When did it start to grow? When did it start to fall?
Yeah. So our first break.
Give us some juice.
Our first break was. Again, I was pursuing this with my friend Rob, and he put me onto this podcast called Dissect.
Because I've seen some great articles, at least one, maybe 2 or 3 great articles about Rocky Clark.
Yeah, it was like, we fucking built something, and it was super exciting.
Let's fucking hear about
so
it.
He sends me this podcast called Dissect, and it was the very first episode of this podcast, and it was about Kendrick Lamar's Mad City. And like, that's how we bonded over music, and so I was like, shit, this is really cool. And then his next season was, I think, Kendrick. So then I hit him up. I'm like, hey, man, like, I would love to work with you. I would love to, like, make merch for your podcast. And he said, okay, like, awesome. Like, the next season is going to be Kanye's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And if you don't know Dissect, he essentially breaks down music and the meaning behind it. So I'm like, holy shit. Like, I fucking love this album. So we used this opportunity, and we created a t-shirt and a hat for this podcast, and that fucking, like, did so incredibly well. We donated all profits to Donda's House, Kanye's charity at the time, and, like, we made a beautiful fucking product. Like,
so you got your big break. You made a bunch of money, and you donated all of it. Yeah, because I felt like if I was going to go into business with the sole pursuit of it benefiting me, that just wasn't going to work. That didn't align with my values. So I knew that if I was going to start a brand, it had to be sustainable, use like environmentally friendly. It had to be charitable in the sense of like we donate to charity, a portion of sales go to charity, and it had to be like community based. And, community based meaning it had to be more about the clothing. It had to be,
people sharing similar values and passions, but like I also wanted to make it locally in my backyard, right fucking here. So as the brand grew, as I learned more about how to create clothing, I, as a tall, skinny guy, I had so much trouble finding jeans that fit. And that pissed me off because I had such a discerning eye around the clothes I was adorning myself with. So when I would go shopping, I would leave frustrated. I'm like, I just don't understand how I'm not finding what I want. So I was like, shit, like I have the skills to create exactly what I want. So post-college and a little bit in college, I set out to make my ideal perfect pair of jeans. And what did that mean? They had to be sustainable, meaning they had to be long-lasting and they had to be made from organic cotton or hemp material. They had to be made in the USA and they had to fit my aesthetic. And my aesthetic is, you know, both my grandfathers were war veterans in World War II and the Korean War. Vintage Ralph, that Americana design. So I took all these inspirations and fused it into a jean that checked all those boxes. And post-graduation, at night, I'm making bagels for my dad at his deli. And during the day, I'm waking up and I'm fucking in my parents' basement in the lab, experimenting and like making a pair of jeans. So throughout that process, like I made a first pair of jeans, and you know I would just wear them all the time. If I was going out in New York to hang out with friends, I would wear my jeans, and people started coming like, "Yo, dude, like, where did you get those jeans? Like, I've never seen anything like that before." And I'm like, "Well, shit, I made them." And they're like, "Well, can you make me a pair?" And I was like, "Well, okay, like sure."
How much did it cost to make one pair?
At the time, it was like I didn't cut any fucking corners. I was getting top-notch denim. I was using a top-notch factory that made designer denim in the 90s.
And this was before you did the clothing line for the podcast.
This was after.
Okay, so this was after.
So this is a progression of the brand.
Ah, got it.
So this is 2016, 2017, where I arrived on the first pair of jeans. And I had an internship at a fashion company in the city.
What company?
I don't even know the name of it. It was sort of fucking whack, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
And like that's when I knew like I don't want to be in fashion. I want to be in clothing. Big difference in my eyes.
Okay.
The fashion industry is sort of taxing. It's very superficial, especially in New York. It's very grinding. Like they'll chew you up and spit you out as like an intern. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity because I met contacts that I still talk to today. That's where I found my denim supplier for the fabric. That's where I found my manufacturer for my jeans, who I was literally at his factory yesterday working on a special project. And so I took this idea to him and I said, hey, could you like not only help me make this, but could you help me make it better? So the factory I use is literally a block away from Madison Square Garden. I could see it out their window. And like, to me, that was like, holy shit. Like, this is so fucking New York.
Yeah.
This is so fucking cool. And he helped me really blossom this brand and like sort of perfect my jeans. And so I knew I had a product that I loved. I knew I had like all the pieces to make it. So that's when I set out to raise money via Kickstarter. And I raised enough money to create 100 pairs of jeans.
What were you offering people on the Kickstarter?
I was offering people during the tiers, it was either a hat at a lower tier, or at the higher tiers, it was an actual pair of jeans from the run of 100. So we successfully raised the money, and then it was go time. Like, it was literally me just being like, I was ready to pull the trigger, and I did, and it was just like, I was getting denim shipped to my little apartment in Bushwick, and I would have, it's like 200 pounds of denim. So I had to take that, I had to bring it to the factory. It was super scrappy. I'm on the subway with a roll of fabric, right? And so it took like a month to make these pair of jeans, and we finish up 100 pairs of jeans. You know, like around half of them got sent out for Kickstarter, and then I had the other half to sell off, give to influencers and whatnot. And that was like our very first product that I'm like super proud of. It's my go-to pair of jeans that I still wear today. And
fucking love that.
it just like how did I do it? It was just like being resourceful, learning how to network, learning how to build relationships, right? Those like skills, you know, there's no playbook to how it's done, but it's a culmination of like people wanting to help you and just being super scrappy to get it done.
So this was now 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
So why isn't Rocky Clark in Kith right now? What's going on with Rocky Clark? What happened in the last 5 years?
That's a great question. So we released the jeans like a week before COVID hit.
When you say release the jeans, did you make X amount of pairs? Did you have back stock?
So we had 50 pairs to sell.
That you spent how much money to make?
From the Kickstarter, we raised like $6,000 to make.
And put how much of your own money into it?
I put a decent amount of my own money in.
10 grand, 20 grand,
like
50 grand?
Over 50 grand.
So you put over 50 grand of your own money.
Yup.
You make product.
Yup.
It comes out February 2020.
Yup.
March comes.
Yup. It's locked down. Nobody's wearing jeans inside.
No, and they didn't have elastic waist, right?
So it was tough, and it was tough. It was just bad timing, out of my control.
How excited were you building up to February 2020 when you're finally, after now 6 years of building Rocky Clark,
yeah,
you've now put your biggest investment of over 50 grand of your own money into it on top of the money that you've raised from hundreds of other people.
Yep.
And then COVID hits.
Yeah.
And everything is poof, pushed to the side.
I think reflecting back, I wasn't too saddened, because to me it was already a success.
Well, what'd you do with all the product?
It eventually sold off throughout 2020, just like being very scrappy, building the brand. And then in 2021 we put out another collection. We built a denim jacket, the hats, and a hoodie. Those sold very well. But then it got to the point where, again, this is a couple years ago, so I'm a much different person than I was then. I was overworking myself, burning myself out. It was really it was mostly me. The risk was on me. A lot of the brand building and the operations were on me. And I just couldn't.
Is it because you weren't delegating all the responsibility? And you were just, or because you're a perfectionist to an extent, and you don't want someone else to be doing something because you want it done your way?
I think that was part of it. I had a very specific vision for what I wanted the brand to be. I think I just wore myself out. I was so close to it, and I wasn't seeing the return that I wanted, and I wasn't really willing to make hoodies and sweatpants. I didn't want to stray away from denim, and I think that stubbornness was really the fatal flaw.
Well, I guess because you have, and while Ralph Lauren does make sweats, you had the fuel that kind of started your fire and gave you all your inspiration was not that part of Ralph's brand. It was a lot of it, the denim aspect, the luxury aspect, and the all-American aspect, which is not sweats. It's the denim, the relatively high-end fashion, and that's why you didn't want to stray, because you didn't want to go away from your identity.
Yeah, Rocky Clark, people knew Rocky Clark as a denim brand, and I was so proud of that, because again, we were using the finest Italian denim that was sustainably made. I was using the best denim factory, and like I wasn't willing to cut corners, you know. So the jeans were expensive to make, but as a new brand, I knew I had to sort of sell them a little less than I had hoped for, just to build the brand. But yeah, Rocky Clark got to the point where I no longer found the drive to create for it.
So there you go.
Yeah,
It's still not dead.
It's not dead.
It's not dead. It's there, but you're now able to take that energy and put it in elsewhere. Now, you're a guy who has endorphins running through your body while you're sleeping. You are one of the most positive people I know, and you're always locked in. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, one, on Rocky Clark, like that was my experimentation. Like I used that as a vessel to learn how to build a brand, learn how to be an entrepreneur, you know. So I used it as like school after college.
Would you say you learned more from building Rocky Clark
100%.
than you did in 4 years at
100%,
college?
1,000%. You know, my level of drive just wasn't being matched in college.
How do you feel about kids going to college these days?
I think...
You have a kid.
Yeah.
I know you don't have a kid. When you do have a kid, do you think you're going to push them to go to college?
This is something I think about a lot.
Do you have this conversation with your girlfriend?
I do, yeah. And where I'm at is like college gave me a great opportunity. But I went to college in 2012, where most of the people in my high school went to college. It was follow your dreams, follow your passion, right? But now the opportunities to kids has grown exponentially.
Yep.
You know? I just fucking said something today, like, we live in a time now where you can live as a professional athlete and a fucking rock star, which I wanted to be all my life.
An athlete or a rock star?
Both. I told myself, like, if I couldn't be a professional athlete or if I couldn't be a rock star, like, I was going to make the clothes that they wore.
Okay.
That was, like, my drive. But now, like, there's opportunities to live that life, even though you're not playing the NBA, like, you can still be a professional athlete outside of, like, organized professional sports. Like, that lifestyle is still possible through content creation, entrepreneurship, right? So, like, school didn't work for me. When I was in high school, school didn't work for me. I got shitty grades. College didn't really work for me. I got shitty grades. You know, I have enough discipline and structure over myself. I don't need an outside source to bring that to me. I just didn't, like, it's a damn shame that the school system, it just doesn't work for everybody, and that's okay.
No, so let's go back to the question. When you have a child, do you think you're going to encourage your kid to go to college?
I'm going to encourage my kid to, like, I want to provide an environment for them so they can blossom and thrive doing whatever they, like, just truly love to do in the essence of their bones.
So I put away money every month. It's for a college fund, which I'm not, I don't care for that much. I think it's called a 529 program. Yeah. And they've changed it recently where when the child is old enough, that money now not necessarily has to go to college, but it just goes to education.
Okay.
And that's a vehicle that we're raising money for Seymour.
Yep.
I also started what I'm calling an entrepreneur fund, which is just a separate account where, you know, let's say for his birthday in August, we got X amount of money. Let's say we got $100. I'm putting half of that into his college and half into his entrepreneur fund.
Mm-hmm,
what is that? When he turns 10, he'll be able to bring me ideas.
Right.
So if he's 10 years old, he brings me a good business idea, I'll fund it.
I love that.
With his money that's been accruing interest for, 8, 9, 10 plus years,
right.
8, 9, 10 years. If I don't agree with the business, I'll think about it. But
you're a board member.
Yeah, I'm a board member. If he brings me a good business idea anytime from 10 on,
mm-hmm.
he's got a startup fund from it.
I love that. And I'm going to steal that.
Go ahead.
That's how I feel about, like, the school system in general and college. Like, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you have to go to school.
It's actually a great program it's a good business idea. like for a child, like to create this entrepreneur fund for your child that they can touch not when they're 18, but when they're 10.
Yeah. So when I go back, when I think about, are you born or are you made, right? As an entrepreneur, I think I was born because for Christmas, my parents got me, or Santa got me, a bucket of double bubble gum because I loved playing baseball.
And you fucking went and you sold it.
You damn fucking right. I sold a piece for 25 cents each on the bus, and I made a fucking killing. I come home with a bag of change and cash, and my mom's like, where'd you get all that? And I said, oh, like, you remember that Christmas gift you got me? Like, I fucking sold that shit.
Yeah.
You think I was gonna eat all that bubble gum? I was out there hustling.
When I was 10, and this is why I thought, like, all right, 10 is like the good age.
Yeah.
When I was like 9, 10 years old,
that's how old I was.
I'd go to after school daycare with a grocery bag of candy, whether it was Blow Pops, Jolly Ranchers, and I would sell them, depending on the candy. They would be anywhere from 25 cents to $1.
Yeah.
That was when I was 9, 10 years old. Fast forward to sleepaway camp. I'm 13 years old. I had a George Foreman grill in my cabin, and I would steal bread and cheese from the kitchen.
Let's go.
And I was making grilled cheese.
Yeah.
At night while we were in the cabin, I would make grilled cheese on the Foreman, and I would go to the bunks around us selling a grilled cheese and a soda for $10.
Yeah. And I think that, like, when you're a kid doing that, you're not thinking about the money. Like, I really wasn't thinking about the money. It was more of like a kid looked at me and said, hey, like, could I have a piece of gum? And I was like, well, one, I don't really know you, so I'm not just going to give you a piece of gum. But, like, how can we trade?
I feel like Joe now would give someone a piece of gum.
Now, yes, I would love to give anybody a piece of gum. But as a kid, you're like, well, like, what do I get out of this for giving you a piece of gum? It was more about, like, a transaction. It wasn't like, I wasn't looking to fucking get rich off of selling gum. It was more of, like, a game, right? And, like, I'm trying to, like, inject that childlike curiosity into what I'm doing now because, again, like, what you love doing as a kid is what you, like, truly, the essence and the authenticity of who you are. It's like, how can you inject that into your adulthood? So it wasn't about the money. It was, like, more about, like, the hustle and, like, the grind, about, like, all right, like, it's mostly a game. That's what business is, a game.
So you take that fire. Rocky Clark is not dead.
It's not dead, but you also need to know when to kill your babies, or put it on pause.
Put it on pause, but, like, it's not dead, but, like,
No.
it's there, and kind of like with me with Endoband.
Yeah.
Like, it's not dead, but, like, it's there.
It's on pause.
And while I, like, I dumbed down. I scaled back the e-com aspect of the business, and we're only doing private labeling. It's still there.
Yes.
And Rocky Clark is still there. I think that you have a very, very, very big head of steam behind your protein ice cream. Why didn't you think about naming your protein ice cream Rocky Clark?
So what I want to do with Rocky Clark is eventually put it into a holding company, turn it into a holding company of, like, where I can just create.
Oh, kind of like a personal incubator.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like how, like,
that's kind of how your mind works.
Yeah, it's like, how can I spread tentacles of my mind across different avenues of brands? Like, I didn't want to be known. I think like one of the other reasons I sort of wanted to step away is, like, I didn't want to be in a box that I couldn't get out of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to be known as the denim guy. And for so long, like, when I was out of college, I was like, wow, like, I'm so lucky that, like, I know what I want to do for the rest of my life, and that's Rocky Clark. I identified so hard with it. People knew me as Rocky Clark. Like, people would call me Rocky, right? Like, I was so tied to it. And I think, like, I just had to create some distance away from it to, like, learn more about myself, learn more about what I love. And, like, while I do love fashion, like, I'm more obsessed with building brands and creating stories than I love fashion, you know? And I wanted to explore other facets of my creativity.
Amazing. And let's see, right now we're in late September, early October. you're gonna have a successful ice cream brand that's gonna fucking change the world.
Thank you. That's
by next summer.
That's the plan.
Yeah, it's beta test after beta test.
Yeah.
But from where you're at with the building of it, the brand's fantastic, the concept's fantastic. I just need to taste it.
You do need to taste it.
I just need to taste it.
My sister makes it all.
Yeah.
She's like,
I think we got to bring it in-house.
The most incredible baker and mathematician.
Yeah.
She obsesses.
I think we got to. I know she lives 10 minutes from you.
She was very close.
You got to bring it in-house.
Yeah. So
you both could be doing it.
I worked her pretty hard. She made a lot of ice cream these past couple weeks. She needed a break. She needed a reset. So I was like, all right, like I really did want to bring ice cream on the show. I really did, and I'm sorry that I don't have it. There will be a time to taste it. I kid you not, like, man, it's so fucking good. It is so fucking good, and it would be so selfish of me to not share it. And that's how, like,
with the world.
With the world, yeah. And like, I think that's about, like, as an artist, you're obligated to share your work. You're obligated to share your work because it does bring value to others, you know. And you're going to have to create a lot to find what you're good at and to get to that really good work, but you have to get your reps in. You have to get your reps in.
And you've done that for the last 10 years now.
Yeah, and I was brave enough to get my reps in. I was brave enough to fucking, transform myself and like go down every rabbit hole and like give myself the time and space. Yeah, it's like exhausting, but like I didn't want to live with any regret of like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. It's like, let me try it.
And you won't. And I see the passion you have behind this. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, thanks, dude.
What
How do I stay so positive and locked in?
Nah, yeah. Other than the fact that you just have you run and you work out and you eat healthy and you just have this positive mindset.
How? You know what it is? It's like part of it is honestly just me being vulnerable. Like part of it is compensation.
Compensation?
I'm fucking human, dude. I get anxious as fuck. I doubt myself multiple times a day.
You'd never know.
There are times when I want to fucking quit and just fucking,
If you ever feel like you want to quit, you call me.
Yeah, you know that. Well, I've built a support system that won't allow me to because I'm obligated to you. Like, I need to deliver, right? But, like, again, my time in Italy of being alone all the time, like, all this I've had so many ventures and I've done so much, but at the baseline has always been health and wellness and fitness. And health, to me, is eating right, working out, but also training your mind. So I like to say, like, I'm a disciple of Lewis Howes, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss. Like, I studied all these people who master their mindset, right? So all the while, like, entrepreneurship is a lonely, tough game. You need to sharpen your mind as you get your reps in. And I fucking love personal development and mindset mastery.
So speaking of which, what's one book that you would recommend to anybody?
I just finished it, and it's the Bible of personal development. It's called Awaken the Giant Within by Anthony Robbins. He went by Anthony at the time. It's from the 90s. This is the Bible. It's the original source. It's the Bible. Like, I'm actually convinced it's the Bible. You read this book, and like, this is where all coaches get their intel. It's how you really unlock the mind and like it's really learning how us as humans operate.
You have the physical copy, obviously.
I do have the physical.
I need to borrow it.
I found it on a stoop. And I saw it and I was like, holy shit, it was at a pivotal time.
It's fate.
And it was just like such a godsend. But how am I so positive and like locked in all the time? It's because I get my reps in. It's because like I too battle with anxiety and I get into funks, right? It's like, how do I get myself out? I know I need to train my mind. And like, it's gotten to the point where I could just snap my fingers and it flip switches. If I get into a negative thought pattern, I could snap my fingers and be like, this is just silly. It's not me undermining my thoughts, feelings, and emotions, but it's me just getting myself in a state of mind where like I'm starting to produce energy.
Do you implement any breath work?
I do breath work, not as often as I'd like to, but there are like being in the sauna, breathing, meditating, tapping into the breath while I run. That's a huge tool for my toolbox that I use. Journaling, you name it, I've done it. I think it's like right now, we live in a world of a menu, right? And not one of those menus that are small, at a fine dining restaurant where you have maybe 3 choices.
Yeah, you're talking about at a fucking diner.
Yes, exactly. We live in a world of a diner menu where there's so much out there. This human optimization wave is like fucking ripping right now, but it's a menu. You choose what works for you and you implement that into your life, based around your values and what works for you, right? So that's what sort of I've done with all these people, all these creators out there is like I'm looking at the menu. I'm like, all right, that actually sounds pretty good. I'll have that as an app. I'll have this as a dinner, and for dessert, like I'll have high protein ice cream.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean?
So, all that put together in a ball. Give me one word of advice for anyone trying to make it.
I think it's conviction. It's like undeniable conviction. Conviction in your vision. Conviction in, not being afraid or embarrassed to create or do shit. It's like true, undeniable, selfish conviction in yourself. When I'm my best self, I can be my best self for others. And that is because I have true conviction in my talents and my skill set and in myself, right? I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, fuck, man, like I'm fucking so proud of you. And to me, that's just like, to put it into one word, it's conviction.
My dude.
Steve, thank you, dude.
That was awesome. So throw a date on here. When you think that protein ice cream, give me the name again. SMEARCASE. When do we want SMEARCASE to hit the world?
2024, like early 2024 is what I'm
Early
going for.
2024, that's ambitious.
Yeah, I'm ambitious, motherfucker.
All right, early 2024.
Early 2024 for like more of a mass rollout. Like I'm working my ass off we're making it ourselves, because that's my family, dude. We do shit.
Yep.
We work with our hands. We get in the lab and we experiment. And my sister makes the best creations in the world.
SMEARCASE.
Rocky
Clark.
Joe
Rotondo.
Yes, sir.
Locked in.
Stay locked in, baby.
Let's go.